I want to say hello to our viewers on live stream and a special shout out and love to my friends and family in Colorado and California. Mwah! And wherever you're watching, know that you are with us here in spirit in this beautiful, beloved community. So I have to start by saying, 2 weeks ago, for those of you who recall, we had a talk planned on gratitude, right? I was going to talk about gratitude, and the night before the talk on gratitude, we had 2 mass shootings in our country 14 hours apart. And I had the opportunity to come here and talk about gratitude. And then today, I'm talking about respect. We've had this plan for many weeks. And as many of you know, just yesterday, we had hateful disrespect. Hateful group come into our town, downtown. My beautiful 17-year-old daughter received warnings from her friends saying, don't go, people of color, LGBTQ, do not go downtown, it's not safe for you. And so now I'm here talking about respect. It's a very interesting time to be a minister, I will tell you that. And it felt to me appropriate, given all of this, that we start this conversation on respect with the wisdom of the ages, the sages and the saints, the wisdom of old, which has existed across time, culture, race, and the world's religions. And that is a sampling of the Golden Rule. The Baha'i faith: lay not on any soul a load that you would not wish to be laid upon you, and desire not for anyone the things that you would not desire for yourself. Buddhism: treat not others in ways that you yourself would find hurtful. Christianity: do unto others as you would have them done unto you. Confucianism: do not do to others what you do not want done to yourself. Hinduism: do not do to others what would cause pain if done to you. Islam: not one of you who truly believes until you wish for others what you wish for yourself. Jainism: one should treat all creatures in the world as one would like to be treated. Judaism: what is hateful to you, do not do to your neighbor. Taoism: regard your neighbor's gain as your own gain, and your neighbor's loss as your own loss. Zoroastrianism: do not do unto others whatever is injurious to yourself. This is just a sampling. This is just 10 of the many great faiths and religions of the world that hold the fundamental tenet of respect. And so that is what I'm talking about this morning, and I'm going to get to how we take this kind of respect out into the world in a few minutes. But first, I must begin, as Shelley so beautifully reminded us this morning, where we must always begin, and that is within ourselves. So self-respect is the deep inner feeling that we have about ourselves. It's what we think about ourselves, what we say to ourselves when we are alone. Our level of self-respect has very little to do, self-respect has very little to do with the outside world, and everything to do with our inner compass of integrity, alignment, and doing the right thing. Do you hear me? Do you understand what I'm saying? Self-respect is all about what's going on inside of us. And whenever we look at our inner life, we must look at both our light and our shadow, or our fear, our ego, some call it. And this is the place where we have an opportunity to love the shadowed self, the parts of us that some refer to as flaws. I'm talking about the areas where we fall short in our humanness. That's the shadow I'm speaking of, the places where we may tend to be a little over-controlling or critical or judgy. All those places we love within ourselves, right? That stuff, that shadowed nitty-gritty, those are the parts of us where we have our holy and sacred work to do. If we stay awake to the growth that is beckoning to us. What I want to say about that is when you find yourself in a moment of unskilled behavior, and we all have those moments as human beings on this planet, I'm going to invite you to take a deep breath and recognize that in that moment, if you can catch it, that unskilled behavior, and not keep going, but if you catch it, realize in that moment that what's right underneath that is God, love, source, quantum consciousness, whatever word you want to use, right underneath it, just beckoning for your attention. It is an opportunity in that moment for us to grow on a soul level. And it's in that moment where we are faced with our flaws. For you listeners online, I'm using major air quotes. That humanness in us that deserves the heartiest helping of respect. We tend to beat ourselves up in that moment, don't we? Or ignore it and just keep with the bad behavior. So it's because it's not pretty. It's because these are the parts of us that have sort of prickly edges, and they can really sting. And these parts of us, in our humanness, these are the parts of us that are our teachers. They're teaching us this wisdom within us. If we can catch what's under it, it's teaching us every day. And we have such an opportunity to, in that moment, be gentle with ourselves and say, okay, God, there's something here for me to learn. Because why I feel uncomfortable in this moment. A tool that I will share with you that has worked for me. If you're having a conversation with someone and it's starting to feel one of the things you can just do is take a deep breath and say, wow, I feel uncomfortable in this moment right now. You just name it. You name it so you can transcend it. And what happens is the other person goes, me too. Yeah, okay, let's breathe. It's just that. Wow, I feel uncomfortable. I feel uncomfortable in this moment. And it allows you that hang time to realize what is wanting to emerge if we pay attention and allow it. So years ago, about 10 years ago-ish, I was in grad school and I was finishing up my program, and it was finals week, and I had a huge term paper due. It was worth like, I don't know, 85% of my grade or some crazy thing. And I had been working on this paper. It was for a class in conflict transformation. And I had been working on this paper all week. I had written 20 pages, single-spaced, complete with all sorts of academic brouhaha, backing up all of my ideas and my theories. And I was way, 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 way too attached to my GPA in those days. I think it was because I went back to school later in life, and I somehow connected somewhere in that story I was telling myself, my self-worth was connected to and wrapped up in how well I did in school. It was just this thing that happened. And so here I am working late at the library, on the 5th floor of the library, along with all the other students. We were all wearing, jammies and thermoses of coffee. And this paper was due at 10 p.m. And this was before the invention of the magical cloud that backs everything up. That cloud, that magical cloud. Kind of freaks me out, but okay, it's fine. This was before that. So here I am sitting, finishing up. I have 2 hours to go. It's 8 p.m. to turn the paper in, click send by 10 p.m. And I'm wordsmithing it, and I'm just making it so pretty, and I'm rereading it, and I'm so proud of myself. And then there was an entire systems crash in the whole library. Everything went down. Then the generator, I guess, kicked in, and there was low light that came up. And this was one of those papers where we had to send it on the campus portal university email. Remember those days, for any of you who might know? So anyway, yes, there was much wailing and gnashing of teeth throughout that could be heard. It was sort of like a horror movie in the library. And I'm just sitting there, it all goes blank. There's just very, very vibrant language you could hear from all the floors, the library. And I'm just sitting there looking at my keyboard, and my teardrops are falling on my keypad. And the first thought that I had was, well, I can't face failing, so I guess I'm just going to give up the program. What? I know. It was just a moment, daughters, girls. Stay in school. But that was my first thought. I was so terrified of failing that I thought, well, so I put nearly 3 years of my life into this program, I'll just forget it. That's how afraid I was to fail. That was my first thought. Then, of course, I realized that was not a sane thought. Girls. So only having 2 hours left to turn in this paper that was 85% of my grade, I took a deep breath and I realized I had to write this paper from my heart. I had to let love lead in this moment while all the wailing was going on. And so I typed as fast as I could, and I'm not a fast typist. Barb knows that. And I had no academic data to back up anything I was saying at all, but I just typed and I typed and I typed from my heart. I hit send. I cried the whole way home. My sweet husband had a cup of tea for me waiting when I got home. And I called my practitioner. And I said, okay, please pray with me, because this was really, first of all, eye-opening, and second of all, please pray for me to learn how to accept failure. Again, air quotes. So we did, and I braced myself. And when the paper came back, here's what I can tell you. The paper, my professor, who I had so much respect for, wrote on my paper. Her comment was, finally, I know who you are and how you will take this work out into the world. Thank you. And I do not even remember the grade I got, because it no longer mattered to me. It no longer had any power over me. It no longer mattered. It was a game changer. And I realized that whole systems crash was a total God thing. Just for me. And everyone else in the library. Right? Right? Thank God for God. Thank God for God. If you have any experiences, or if you are moving through something like this, I invite you to simply say, thank God for God. God is up to something, so thank God for God. And if we pay attention, good will come out of it, because that was the moment in my life, in my journey, where I learned that it's far more powerful and far more meaningful if I lead from my heart, because I can get really heady and cerebral. And this was the beginning of my deepest journey from my head to my heart. And I'd been in this teaching for 20-some years, right? So one of the ways in which I want to invite all of us here to bring in that level of self-respect, right? Dr. Ernest Holmes said awareness is curative. And so I want to do a little moment here, a little process with all of you and those of you at home. I invite you just to turn within for just a moment. Take a deep breath. One of the quickest ways that I know that you can realign and step into greater self-respect is to ask yourself the 3 following questions. So again, take another deep breath in. I invite you to silently ask yourself, where am I saying one thing and doing another? Gently, gently ask, where in my life am I saying one thing and doing another? Be very gentle with yourself here, loves. Where is that for you? What is that for you? And now I invite you to ask, with this information, what do I need to stop doing? Okay, God. Okay, guidance. Then what am I being called to stop doing? It'll be different for every one of you. And now, very gently, ask yourself, what do I need to start doing to be in alignment and in great integrity so that I can be totally okay with myself? What am I being called to start to do to bring myself back to alignment where I can love, serve, and remember who I really am and why I have come here? So I invite you to take another deep breath and gently open your eyes, coming back to the room. And with your eyes open, allow this to land even more gently in your body temple, in your heart, in your being, with your eyes open. These are 3 simple questions you can ask yourself at any point. At any point. Where am I saying one thing and doing another? Receive that guidance. Okay, God. Then what must I stop doing? And what must I start doing to create greater alignment in myself so that we can become clean, clear vessels for the divine to work through us? Yes? So now that I've spoken a bit about this inner peace, the inner work, I want to bring it into the community, this idea of respect. And I have a story for you. This is a story that I love. It's an old story. It's been told many different ways through many different cultures. This is my version. So once upon a time, there was a young man who spread rumors that the old man next door was a thief. And as a result, the old man was arrested and put in jail. The people in the town heard about this and they were harsh. They were harsh with this old man. And days later, the old man was actually found innocent. And he was released from jail. And on his way home, he was so deeply saddened by these people that he thought were his friends who had been so harsh with them, jumping to judgment. He felt humiliated. Wanting to reclaim his name, the old man decided to sue his young neighbor for wrongly accusing him. And so in court, the young man told the judge in his defense, they were just comments. They didn't mean anything. I didn't mean to harm him. So the wise judge handed the young man a piece of paper. And right there in the courtroom, she told him to write down all of the things that he had said about the old man, all the lies. So he did. And then she handed him a scissors And she asked him to cut the piece of paper up into many, many tiny pieces. So he did. And then this wise judge asked him to walk home, and on the way home, to throw the pieces of paper out, and to come back the next day to hear his sentence. And so the next day, the judge told the young man that before receiving his sentence, he would have to go and gather all the pieces of paper that he threw out the day before. The young man said, "Well, I can't do that. The winds have spread them all across the land. I wouldn't even be able to find them." And the wise judge then replied, "That is exactly how your simple comments went across the land, destroying the honor and respect of your neighbor." This young man realized the great damage he had caused to his kind, old, and honorable next-door neighbor. Realizing he could never repair the damage he caused, he begged for forgiveness, and the old man forgave him. I love this story, this parable, if you will, because it points to the weight of our words. Our words have power. Our words matter. And it is so crucially important that we are mindful how we use them, not only in passing conversation, the big stuff, but even how we use our words in the ways that we think about people. Do you see what I'm saying? They matter. They matter. The same golden rule that I mentioned that runs throughout the world's religions, do unto others as you would have them done unto you, is actually the ancient law of reciprocity, which we use right here a lot in metaphysics, which in a nutshell means what we put out into the world returns to us multiplied abundantly. That is the law of reciprocity. So the words we use, what we are putting out into the world, comes back to us multiplied abundantly. If we're putting out loving kindness, it comes back to us multiplied abundantly. If we're putting out hate and lack and cruelty, it will come back to us. We don't know when or how, but it comes back to us. This is known by the East as karma. It is known in our teaching as cause and effect. Now, I'm not saying this to scare you of like, oh no, the big bad law of reciprocity is coming to get me. That's not the point. It's actually the opposite. When you have a profound understanding of this immutable law in the universe, you treat others better. You just do. You're more mindful of your words. You just are. Because it has been scientifically proven that everything is energy. You know? That in this quantum field of reciprocal energy, the vibration, the very vibration that we breathe in, it follows that the more good we put out into the world comes back to us. And when we put out harm, it will come back to us. The universe is the great balancer. That is how it works. That's energy. That's it. And so I'm inviting us to be so mindful of what we are putting out into the world. So next month is the World Day of Service. And it was brought to my attention that last year, you all here created care packages for people who are facing homelessness last year. And it was brought to my attention that we have folks here in our community in this area that are moving through some economic challenge, that need assistance, that are experiencing food insecurity. And what I know about this beloved community is we take care of each other, yes? We're really good at that here. And so we're going to be launching a new program in September, and we have a sign-up sheet. I believe it's downstairs. We're calling it, again, the Caring Corner. And it's going to be located somewhere on our grounds where we will have perishable foods and hygienic items, paper products for those who need them. And they can just come and use them. And here is where we get to put love to our feet and practice the universal spiritual principle of reciprocity and of caring for one another on a deep, deep level, this is where we get to move our feet, where we get to put love to our feet right here in our community. Because, we're living in a time where people, as people of faith, it is imperative that we take care of each other and that we take a stand for the inherent dignity and respect of all people everywhere, no matter what, period. This is how we walk our faith together. That same inner compass that I talked about earlier, where we inwardly check in on our own level of integrity, alignment, and doing what's right. So when we talk about respect for our world, this is where we get to face that compass outward. And this is where we get to really look at how we are respecting or disrespecting our world and the people in it. And I know that many of you here in this community have been educating yourselves about the inequities that are happening in our country right now, because I've been sitting with you, I've been meeting with you, it's been beautiful. And I know so many of you are committed to opening your hearts so that you can have a greater understanding of how we can participate actively in the change that we wish to see. And so I want to share with you a brand new book that I absolutely am loving. And it's been out less than a week. It's by Dr. Ibram Kendi. This is the book. And he's a New York Times bestseller, leading scholar in racism in our country, founding director of the Anti-Racist Research Policy Center at American University. He is brilliant. And this is his much, much awaited book. It's called How to Be an Anti-Racist. I highly, highly, highly recommend it. It's brilliant. And our dear Carolyn, she took my call a couple of days ago, and she has some books down in the bookstore for you, or she'll order them for you. And the thing is that, given what happened in Portland, in downtown yesterday, this book is so very timely. It's designed for all of us who want to contribute to the formation of a just and equitable society. And it's particularly germane to the conversation we're having today about respect. Dr. Kendi writes, "We must believe in the possibility that we can transform our societies to be anti-racist from this day forward. Racist ideas are not natural to the human mind." He goes on, "If we ignore the odds and fight to create an anti-racist world, then we give humanity a chance to one day survive, a chance to live in communion and to be forever free." So I highly recommend this book for you. So cultivating true respect begins on the inside, where we can compassionately notice, where am I saying one thing and doing another? And respond to that wisdom, that inner teacher, the guidance that we're given. And then moving outward, we can respect others by being mindful, so mindful and thoughtful about our words, what we're posting, our actions, so that we do no harm to our community, to our neighbors. We come from a centered, clear, clean place. And then finally, through a willingness for education and nonviolent action to move our feet, as we say in this community, we take a stand for deep respect for all of our sisters and brothers who are being marginalized and hurt. And please know that I am in the process right now of formulating a social justice advocacy ministry that my vision is going to thrive. It's going to be big here, because I know this is what you are wanting. Yes? Yes. So you just wait, my friends. So that we can outwardly and tangibly let love lead, so that we can begin to lead all of us from our heart, from the place of love, the place of God. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.